y'all, so today I am going to be talking about all the books that I have read so far during this isolation, this self-quarantine. So I actually started reading this past Thursday, so just the past week, not even a week yet, all the books that I have read. So I thought I would do that for y'all. I want to go ahead and get started. Let's start with the first book that I read. So the first book that I read is Bunny by Mona Awad. I strongly disliked this book. I don't know why it's so weird. Like, I like weird books. I genuinely really do like weird books. But there's weird, and then there's trying to be weird for the sake of being weird and trying too hard. And I felt that's what this did, was it tried way too hard to be edgy and weird. And this basically follows a woman named Samantha, and she is at this really prestigious college trying to get her MFA. They have this group of girls there that they all refer to as Bunny. There's like, I think 4 girls in the group, and every single last one of them calls each other Bunny. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And basically Samantha doesn't like these girls, but one day they ask Samantha to be a part of their little cult. Basically Samantha drinks a lot of their Kool-Aid and things get really weird. I fucking did not understand this book, to be honest with you. I wasn't sure about the main character. It's that typical unreliable narrator type of situation that happens, and it just was a really, really weird book. I just didn't know what to take. Like, I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know if this main character was imagining things. I didn't know if it was really happening. I didn't know any of it because it's never clear. And even towards the end, you still don't really know what happened, or I don't know what happened. Like, I genuinely have no idea what the hell. Like, I just don't understand it. What is this book? Like, can anybody explain it to me? Because I am so confused. The reason that I didn't rate it a 1, because I rated it a 2. The reason I didn't rate it a 1 is because this author is a brilliant writer. She has a beautiful writing style. I thoroughly enjoyed her explaining scenery or explaining how a person looked or how a person was feeling. She's a very beautiful, beautiful writer. She just wrote some really weird shit, and some of this might be somebody's cup of tea. Actually, a lot of people do end up liking it. I just didn't. I just feel like it was too much. At first I was pretty intrigued by it, and I thought the amount of weirdness was okay, but then it just kept getting weirder and weirder and weirder and weirder, and it just did not have a very satisfying ending to me. I'm not sure, I'm just still not sure what happened. Like, and there's a character in this book that I think I would have liked it a bit more if this character, which is her best friend Ava, if she would have, that's spoilers, I can't talk about it, but there's just something that involves her that if something different would have happened with her, then maybe I would have liked it a bit more. But how that ended with her, I didn't like. All of it just was just, I don't know. All I can say is that it was a really fucking weird book, and if you like weird books, then that's great. I like weird books, so I mean, I'm still confused as to why I really, really despise this, but I just do. But I gave it a 2. I don't recommend it. I really, really don't. So there's that one. Next, I read 8 Perfect Murders by Peter Swanson. I have been looking forward to reading this for such a long time. It was well worth the wait. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5-star. Peter Swanson, to me, doesn't know how to write a bad book. Like, I don't think it's possible for him to write a bad book. I've read 3 of his books now, and I just think they get better and better each time. This one is following a man named Malcolm, and he is a bookseller. He sells crime novels, so that is the shop that he owns. He basically has an FBI agent come in one day and starts questioning him about these murders that keep happening, and then the FBI agent is insinuating that this murderer that's on the loose is trying to replicate a list that Malcolm had made like years ago called 8 Perfect Murders, and he basically goes through and lists 8 times in novels or plays where a murder was so well thought out and so well crafted that it was pretty much perfect. Then there's a murderer trying to replicate all that, and you follow that story, and this book was just really, really good. I feel like it was kind of like paying homage to all murder mysteries. I just feel like it was really, really well done. The only thing that ever so slightly bugged me was that I had some of the books that he talked about on my TBR, like Agatha Christie's Then There Were None. I really wanted to read that, and now I'm spoiled on it because he spoiled it. Which, it's fine. Like, I didn't know they were gonna get spoiled. I didn't even know that this book was gonna get mentioned, but it did. It is what it is. You definitely get spoiled on a lot of it. So I would just be aware of that if you are going to read this. It does tell you before you continue reading in the book that there's spoilers. And yeah, and the narrator is just like so smart and funny. Like, he would just say some of the most smart ass like things, and you really, really like the main character a lot. Like, I personally really, really liked him, and I'm actually gonna do some spoilers real quick. If you don't want to read this, or you have read it and you already know what happens, then you can watch, but if you haven't, just skip ahead. This book to me was kind of like You by Caroline Kepnes. When I was reading it, that's what I was thinking about. I was like, this kind of reminds me of You, especially towards the end. To me, this book was very predictable. I thought it was. I thought that there were some things that kind of surprised me, but for the most part, I felt like it was a very predictable book. One of the things that I knew was that the narrator had somehow been involved in murder. That gets brought on pretty quickly. The very first twist I did not see. The other ones I saw pretty easily, but I have predicted a lot of Peter Swatson's twist, and I still love the books. I still give them a 5 because they're so well executed, and you are so invested in the characters that you just don't even care almost that you kind of know what's going on. But there's also so many characters in this book that pinpointing who was the murderer was hard, because that's what I didn't know. I didn't know who was trying to replicate his list. Yes, the narrator is a murderer and he does murder people, but he was not the one trying to replicate his own list. But basically, yeah, he was, oh my god, this book was so fucking good to me. Like, I just could not get enough of this book. I wanted it to keep going. I felt like it was too short. I really wish it would have been like maybe like 100 pages more long. Like, I just wanted it to keep going, and I was really sad when it stopped. But You by Caroline Kepnes, you kind of are attached to the serial killer, which sounds crazy, and you think, how can you like a serial killer? But they did a good job. The author, Caroline Kepnes, did a really good job at making you really, really feel for the serial killer, Joe. This one, to me, does even better than You, because Joe has some pretty bad qualities that, to me, some of them were just not redeemable. Like, his blatant sexism towards women, just absolutely ridiculous. This guy, he's not racist, he's not sexist, he's just a guy who got really fucked over a lot, and he did something about it. So I honestly was rooting for him. That is always such a weird feeling, because normally I don't root for the murderer. Obviously I will root for the victim. In this book is the only other book besides You that I was really, really rooting for the killer. Except in this one, you don't know he's a killer until later on, and then you also don't realize that he's killed way more than one person. He's killed a couple people, and he's killed a few people, and it's like, you still want him to make it, you still want him to live, and it's just kind of a really weird, fucked up feeling. But he's a very, very likable person, and I honestly felt for him. I wanted him to have everything that he ever wanted. I wanted him to have a happy life. I didn't want him to die or be in jail, and I know that sounds horrible, I know, but if you read this, or if you have read it, then you will know. My dog is scratching at my door.
Hello? Can I help you? What you say? What you say? Get to see him. Let me see him face. I said eye boogers. How be? I love you. I love you. I love my baby.
Hey y'all, it's Editing Lindsay. I realize how annoying I sound when I talk to my dog like that. I can't help it. He's so cute. It just comes out. I know I sound like a damn Teletubby, which is what my mama really tried not to let happen, but he's my baby, so I have to talk to him like that.
Like, how could you not talk to that like that? Look how cute he is. You say hello? Say hello. Love you, baby.
I did want to apologize for that, because that is super annoying, and I realize that, but it just kind of comes out. And I love him so much.
And I was getting the eye boogers from him eyes, because I don't like it when they're there, because I bet they're uncomfortable.
But that's it. Bye.
My little doggy's here. He's a sweet boy.
Okay, So let's talk about the next book that I read after that one. The next book I read was The Bookish Life, just dropped a book, of Nina Hill. I really, really liked this book as well. I've been debating whether I'm going to give it a 4 or a 5. I think on Goodreads I have it at a 5, but I think I'm just going to go in for between with a 4.5 and leave it at a 5. The main issue that I had with this book was, and this is going to sound ridiculous, so she has anxiety, this girl, which is not the issue I have. I have horrible crippling anxiety, and whenever she would have a panic attack or whenever she would have thought spirals, it would make me panic. It's so weird. I swear if you had like a blood pressure cup and like checking my vitals while I was reading about those, I swear to God my heart rate goes through the roof because it is so accurate and it's very triggering, honestly. Like, I know that's an annoying word for some people, but it genuinely is very, very triggering when that stuff happens. It's just like, I don't know, it's just this very in your own head. It's really weird to have the thing that torments you the most be put on a piece of paper and be explained so well, and it's just kind of a really freaky feeling. So I would get very panicky in this book. I had the same issue with Turtles All the Way Down, but I'm not gonna not give it a 5 on Goodreads because of that. I feel stupid, and I'm sure other people think I'm stupid for saying that, but it's just something that freaks me out and I have a hard time with it. So this book is following a girl named Nina, and she's been alone most of her life. Her father she never met. Her mother is neglectful. She just travels all the time and never spends time with her. She's an only child, so she thinks, until her father dies and she finds out that she has siblings and she has cousins and she has aunts and or she's an aunt and she has like nephews and stuff, and it's just crazy. So she finds out all about this, and then she has this whole new family and she's into a new guy. She's trying to deal with all of that and trying to get out of her comfort zone. And if y'all watch my vlog when I read this hit really close to home for me. All of it, the guy situation, the anxiety, not wanting to change, like the anxiety is already so much out of control that I try to control everything else around me. That can be hard. So I never have been in a relationship, and I've had chances to be in relationships, but I kind of just freak out, and I don't mean to. I don't know. So I really don't mean to. I just need a guy that's gonna be like, you ain't running, girl. But not like in a creepy way, but in a way that, like, you know what I mean, like that isn't gonna let my head go there, because that's what this guy did for her. He calmed her. That's what I need. I need a guy that's really calm and doesn't freak out at the drop of a hat. And it's so weird though, because when I do freak out, or when other people are freaking out, I'm weirdly calm. When other people are having a panic attack, I'm really good at keeping them, you know, good. For me, once I'm gone, I'm gone. And it's just really weird. But I did thoroughly love this book, and I really related to the main character, and I really highly recommend it. It's a very cute book, and it's not, it wasn't stressful for my mom to read. I'm just a weirdo and got stressed, so. And then the next book that I read is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ning. I rated this a 5. This book was absolutely beautiful. I think it was just a beautifully written book. I am so glad this is the first Celeste Ning book I ever read. I didn't write her books, please. Because she did such a spectacular job at writing all of these characters and giving the perspective of Lydia, which is the girl that is dead. That's not spoilers, that's the very first line in the synopsis. Lydia is the middle child of this family, and the father is Chinese American and the mother is white, but but this is set in the 70s, so women back then, especially when she was like in college, which was in the 50s, did not have rights, didn't have a lot of rights anyways, and got discriminated against a lot. And because he's Chinese, he also would get ridiculed and made fun of and all that horrible bullshit that people go through. They end up getting married. They have 3 kids: Nath, their oldest son; Lydia, their middle child; and then Hannah, their youngest. When Lydia dies, they don't know what happened. They don't know if she was murdered. They don't know if she committed suicide. They don't know if she had an accident. They just didn't know. They just found her in the lake. And we don't find out really what happens. It gets insinuated what happens, but then there's kind of a twist at the end, and it was so sad. I cried the whole time I read it. I went a lot into my vlog about how it's so important for you to communicate with your family and your loved ones, because if this family would have just talked to each other a little bit more, or a lot of it more, they would have been fine. there was so much miscommunication in this book, and so many things weren't said that led other people in the book to assume, and assumptions are never good. You should never assume. You need to talk to people to actually know what they're thinking. And it was just a really, really touching book, but it was also kind of beautiful. It ended pretty good, I thought. Like, I really did like it, and I thought there was a lot of representation in this book. I just thoroughly enjoyed reading it, and I read it really fast. I read it in like a couple hours, so I do strongly recommend this. I think it's a beautiful book that everybody should read at least once in their life, because I think it teaches you a lot about communication and treating people well, and especially suicide prevention, because suicide can be prevented. You just have to help people. You have to be open and willing to listen and to help. So I just think this is a really great book to read. So the next book that I read is Come Tumbling Down by Shauna McGuire. This one is my favorite book, I think, in the series, next to Down Among the Sticks and Bones. That is definitely one of my favorites. So I just really, really like this. We go back to the moors where Jack and Jill are from, and Jack has been my favorite character in the Wayward Children series since the very first book. I just really liked her. I just clicked with her for some reason. I also liked Jill, but not in the way, like, I love to hate Jill. Like, it's one of those characters, like, because Jill's obviously an evil little fucker. You, like, hate her. Like, you hate her. But I love to hate Jill. And Jack is just so amazing, and I really do genuinely love her. I just really enjoyed going back into their world and hearing more about Jack and her story and her life. It was also fun to be with the other characters again. They keep going on these quests, which I think are so interesting, and I hope they keep doing quests because they're really fun to read. I read this so fast. This is such a quick read. Like, you can read it in like maybe 2 hours and you'll be good. So I just really loved this. I gave it a 5. Y'all should read it. If you haven't read the Wayward Children series, you really should, because they're super short and they're super good, and you should definitely read them. Last book that I've read is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I finally read this, y'all. I have had this for such a long time. I don't even know how long it's been since I have bought this book, but all of my TBR jar, like, anytime I pick out of my TBR jar, this book gets drawn, and it's so weird. I loved this. This was so good. This is another character, though, that had really bad anxiety, and whenever she'd panic, I'd start to panic, but it is what it is. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did not take half a star off because of the panic attack. She only had 1. I took a half a star off because there was a part in the middle of the book that really lagged to me, but then it picked up pretty quickly. But I really, really liked this. And the mystery is so enticing, and I love the characters so much. Like, I love all of them, and I really want to know what happens. And it left on a big ass cliffhanger too, let me tell you. It was a big one. So I actually have already picked up the second book. So yeah, but I absolutely love this. You're following a girl named Stevie. Oh my God, her name's Stevie. And she goes to this really prestigious school, and she's actually trying to solve a murder that happened there in the 1930s. So in the 1930s, the owner of the school, Albert, and his wife Iris and his 3-year-old daughter Alice the mother and the daughter went missing first. They were kidnapped, and then they wanted the father, Albert, to pay ransom, and he did all of that. He was trying to pay it, but then he ended up dying too, and it's just this big mystery as to what happened to them. She's just going to the school, she's trying to figure out what happened, and it was just, yeah, it was a really, really good book. So, and I got through it really fast, so I do recommend this book. It was great. There's a reason why the universe kept wanting me to read this so badly, and why I kept drawing it every 2 seconds, and it was because it was a really good book that I obviously enjoyed. So this was absolutely fantastic. If you haven't read it, read it. It's great. That is it for this video, though. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Oh, Mama wanted to talk about the books that she's read. Hey, Mama! Yeah? Do you want to come in here and talk about the books you've read?
I have read.
She's read a lot of books.
Can I sit down there for a second?
Yes.
I look horrible. I have read Truly Devious, The Hand on the Wall. What's the other one?
Vanishing Stare.
She read the first 3 I don't know what. It must have been on Scribs.
She gave all of them a 5.
It's either 5 or 1 for me. Very rarely do I do in between. I've read The Ivy Chronicles. No, I smell like cilantro.
Oh my God.
Wild. Foreplay Wild.
And Tease.
It's
The Ivy Chronicles.
Yes, I said that a while ago, but I don't think you heard me.
I didn't, I'm sorry.
Protecting What's His.
To risk, I'm reading Officer Off Limits.
Didn't you read other things?
Yes, I need to go to Goodreads. Come Tumbling Down, Rainbow Row Landline, and that's all.
That's all.
So I think that's, what, 9 books? 9 is what I'm reading now. I'm proud of myself.
I was proud of me until that.
How many have you read?
I think I've read 6.
That's very good, considering you had to study. I haven't had to study.
Regardless. I thought for once we were on the same team, and no.
Well, I was up coughing all night, so
yeah.
You had to sleep, so.
I'm not mad at you. I just think I was like, oh my gosh, we finally read the same amount of books. And then I wake up one day and she's read like 3 more books than me. And I'm like, bitch, really? So that is it for the video. I hope you guys liked it. And now I gotta film a damn thumbnail. But subscribe if you want to. Like the video if you want to. And my brother just flushed the fucking toilet, so that's fun. He hasn't been out of his study all fucking day. But bet you believe he will come in when I'm filming. But I will see y'all later. Bye.